This program is a collaboration of personal opinions and individual free thought. It does not represent the views or narrative of the mainstream corporate media hacks. Viewer discretion is advised.
And here we go.
Live from the bell tower, taking a stand for your rights, your liberties, and all the bullshit in between. You're listening to Break the Bell Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is once again the weekend, and here we are to wrap up your weekend.
Yes, hello, beautiful bell breakers. We are back on track.
I think my earbuds are slowly going out because they just sound really weird. Or maybe I just sound really weird anymore. Maybe my voice...
A little bit.
Do
Yeah,
I
you seem
sound
a little
weird to you?
squeakier.
Squeakier? I don't know about squeakier, but I don't know. They're just like off sync with each other almost.
Okay.
It's almost like there's like a... I
Oh,
don't know.
yeah, I bet you they're fading out.
It's driving me nuts,
Yeah.
but I will push through anyway. Maybe it's time to invest in a new pair of earbuds.
Yeah, overuse.
Yeah. It's only been like 2 years of week after week use of them. And they get ran over by my desk chair constantly. How's everybody doing out there? It is the weekend, and this is the Break the Bell podcast, and we are here to end your week in style, or start your week in style. I don't know. We're ending last week. We're bringing in the new week, and we're just doing what we do.
This is what we do.
This is what we do, and you got to live with it. And if you don't like it, then that's just
I
tough.
was always confused by that. Is Sunday the end of the week, or is it the beginning of the week?
It depends on if you're Jewish or Christian.
Okay.
The good
That makes
Christians believe that we're at the beginning of the week.
Okay.
No, because the Jewish celebrate
Yeah, Saturday's
on Saturday.
the Sabbath. Yeah, so Sunday would be the
Sunday
beginning
would
for
be
them.
technically the beginning, but if
Okay.
it's comes down to like pay periods, they put it at the end. So
Right.
if you work on a Sunday, you don't get that pay for 2 weeks from now. So they find a way to fuck you
So
over
that
with
sounds
it. That's
really
usually
messed
how
up.
it goes. Yeah. So anything that involves money, it's the last day of the week. But
Yes.
anything involves everything else, it's the beginning of the
It's
week.
interesting. I got us up on the phone here, and we have closed captioning.
We have closed captioning.
Did
wow.
you know that? And even like when I swear, if I were to say fuck, it's all stars.
Oh, it censors us. They don't want the good deaf listeners
Yeah, that's so cool.
to hear that we are swearing, so that would be bad. Well, I'm glad that we have closed captioning. We've
know.
advanced to that stage in our...
I feel like we've hit a whole nother level.
I think so, yes. So we're off to a great start here. How you doing, Bill?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing
Yeah.
good. It's been a good weekend, and I'm liking the weather, a little bit cooler. I love swimming. I love summer, but I always get a little excited.
You're
when
one of
it
those
falls around the
like,
corner.
hey, pumpkin spice lattes are about to come out, right? You're
Yes,
about to break out the UGG boots.
Yes, my little cashmere throw sweater and
Yes.
yeah,
Your cardigan.
yes, my
Yes,
cardigan.
Your
yes.
your
my fleece
Mr.
blankets.
Mr. Rogers cardigan.
Yes,
I know you're a basic white bitch. You got your pumpkin.
it's written on my face, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
So I actually was frustrated because I got up and threw on a tank top because it was hot as hell. I had
Yeah.
to mow. So mowing has been an ordeal for me,
yes.
a big ordeal. So I guess I gotta let everybody in on this. So last week, and I tend to put off mowing as is, so I'd already put it off for a couple weeks. So it needed mowed. So I get my mower out, pour some gas in it, and I pull it. It starts for a second, then dies. And I'm like, well, that's stupid. I mean, I haven't maintained it in the 6
Yeah.
years I've owned it, so it's not surprising. So I primed it a couple times, started it, ran through that gas, and died. I'm like, oh, the car probably needs clean. You know those
Right.
fancy automotive terms that they
Right. Yeah.
they tell
yeah.
you, and you're just like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, the carburetor must need shined or something like that.
So you shined it.
I didn't shine
Oh,
it
okay.
because I don't know how to shine the carburetors. But so I put it off. I was just like, well, there's nothing I can do. And I messed with it for a couple hours. I'm like, you know what, screw this. And then I think I was busy all the rest of the week. So then this past weekend, I'm like, I'm going to borrow a mower. So I went to the neighbors and borrowed their mower. And it looks like this thing's been well maintained. It's like shiny and clean. And it mows perfectly fine until the point where I have to put more gas in it. So I take my gas, pour it in it, and it does the same damn thing. It starts up and then immediately dies. So I'm like, well, shit, I must have like bad gas. Not like bodily functions,
Right?
but
No.
the gasoline
That's
must.
a different show.
Well, I left the gas can outside, so I'm wondering if like water got in it or something.
Gotcha.
So I spent like 3 hours. I looked up on YouTube how to pull the carb off, drain the gas out of this, because I didn't want to give this thing back to her and be like, hey, yours doesn't work now.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So I mean, I tried and tried and tried, cleaned this thing, drained it out, put brand new gas in it. Finally, after a couple hours, it started. I let it run for a couple minutes. I'm like, all right, we're good. So I turned it off, took it out to where I needed to mow, and it wouldn't start at all.
Oh, no.
And this is like 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And my wife's like, we got to tell the neighbor. So the neighbor comes over. She's like, it's not a big deal. She's like, I just got it serviced. So I'm just going to take it back to him and tell him it doesn't work. And so
That's cool.
I was like, well, we'll pay you. And she's like, no, you won't. So then the next day I text you. I'm like, dude, I got to borrow your mower. So yesterday I spent hours mowing what was like shin-high grass at this point because it's been an entire
And I
ordeal.
didn't have no means is mine like top of the line.
No, yours
lawnmower.
actually functioned really well
Yeah.
for it. Like handled that like forest of grass
No,
really
okay.
well.
Well,
I
it's
was
used to it
surprised.
with me.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I was like shocked. I was like, man, this thing actually. I might have to borrow this one more often. But I did get my grass mowed.
Nice.
All that to say, it was hot yesterday. I get up, throw on a tank top today, go outside, and it's cold. I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
shit, summer's almost over.
Yeah.
This sucks. So summer is almost over, unfortunately. I think we still got a few hot days.
Technically we got like a month and a couple weeks left. Month and a week left. So
Right. So enjoy it while it's here.
yeah.
I don't want to wish away like you do. You're like, yeah, bring,
No.
bring on
But
bring on the pumpkin spice. Bring on
football season is just
I don't
right
fucking care.
around
Baseball
the
season.
corner.
Baseball
it's
season.
just right
no,
there. You can
no,
taste it.
No, all the way through October is
No,
baseball
no,
season. Yes,
no.
absolutely. Ask the
I hear
baseball
the drum
gods.
beats of the end of baseball season
Nope,
as we speak.
not happening. I'm going to a baseball game on Thursday, by the way.
Enjoy it. It's the end of the season.
It's not. It's barely half over. Oh
It's
God.
too long.
So we got baseball season isn't long enough. They should have like winter baseball.
That would be fascinating.
It would. So we got to get into this show. We got several things to talk about this week, and some of them are pretty interesting. Most of them are pretty interesting.
It's an
So-
interesting time.
It is. We are living in unprecedented times, as
Yes.
Bernie Sanders would say. First of all, we're going to eventually get to this Mar-a-Lago raid, the FBI raid, at Donald Trump's residence there at Mar-a-Lago, which I don't know. We'll
Did
get
you
into
see
our
the
opinions.
speech by Bernie Sanders this last week? He
Mm-mm.
was addressing Congress and was like, "Look, we currently have a 16% approval rating."
Do you
right?
think this was a good idea?
Right. Well, yeah. And
Was this good timing?
He's like, right now, most Americans do not trust the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. He's like, we are not on good footing, and we got a major election coming up in a couple months. And he's like, which
Maybe we should stop this witch hunt for a while.
yeah, he's like, USA Today has come out and said that Americans are now willing to possibly raise arms against its government if it needs to.
Yeah. And we're kind of going to talk about that this week on our main
Yeah.
episode when we have Jose from the No Way Jose podcast on Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. We're going to talk about anti-government sentiment in like the 90s and how they were ready to raise arms and kind of comparing that to today's world, what's going on today, and see
Yeah.
if we're in the same spot.
And you
But-
know who would totally support that?
Who?
Run Your Mouth Coffee.
Run Your Mouth Coffee would. Speaking of Run Your Mouth Coffee, this week's show is brought to you once again by our sponsors, Run Your Mouth Coffee, who supports your right to, I don't know if they support your right to,
Party.
well, to party, but
Yes. Raise arms.
I'm sure, I want to say they support our right to raise arms
I
when
would say so.
necessary, but I'm
Yeah.
not going to put words
I
in
was
their
gonna
mouth.
say, don't throw 'em
They
under the bus.
do support your right to free speech and to continue to run our mouths on a show like this without the fear of getting kicked out of society and sent to gulags
Right.
for speaking out against a wonderful presidency and administration and federal government,
Right.
they think we should be able to do that without fear of being like thrown in prison or things like that. So go to rymcoffee.com. Also, they make really good coffee. Primarily, they speak out against gulags and stuff.
Yes.
But as a side gig, they make super good coffee.
Yes.
So go to rymcoffee.com, support their cause by buying their coffee. Tell them we sent you by using the promo code Break the Bell, and you'll get 10% off your purchase, plus free shipping, and that's an amazing deal. And you'll get to drink delicious coffee too, not disgusting communist tea.
No.
Which is if the elitists have their way, we're going to be drinking cricket tea before too long. Do you see that thing where they're talking about like cockroach milk is way better for you?
Yeah, you sent that to me. Yeah.
Yeah, I do not think Run Your Mouth Coffee endorses the use of cockroach milk in their coffee. Go to rymcoffee.com. I want to know, do cockroaches have nipples?
I don't know. You can milk anything with nipples.
Well, I know that, but do cockroaches have nipples? Like, how does one milk a
don't
cockroach?
know. The only thing I know is if you squish them, their guts look like milk.
They probably
That's
just
probably exactly
grind
what that
them all
is.
up and make a cockroach cocktail.
Ugh.
Disgusting. Let's get into this. So you started talking about what you didn't. I didn't let you finish what you were saying about Bernie Sanders. Was he talking against the Mar-a-Lago raid, or
No,
was
I
he
think
just
he was basically saying that I think he was speaking out against the anti-inflation bill.
Oh, okay.
Basically saying that this isn't really going to help anybody, and the people are getting tired of our BS.
Yeah. Well, the election's coming up, as you were pointing out, and how they're kind of having to shift the focus because, as Bernie Sanders mentioned, Biden's got the all-time lowest approval ratings of any president at this point.
Hard to believe since he was elected with 80,000.
80
Was it
80 million votes.
Oh, yeah, that was 80,000.
Yeah, 80,
That's probably
80,000.
truer, actually.
Yeah, probably. So this come out. So apparently the Democrats are trying to shift their marketing strategy here because it has been, Joe Biden's doing a great job. Joe Biden is bringing back jobs. He's building back better. He's the economy is soaring. It's just temporary inflation, but the economy is really doing good. Things are great. We're on the gravy train here. 2 thumbs up. Joe Biden's doing awesome. They're starting to realize that strategy isn't working. So they're attempting to jump on the social media meme train.
Oh, boy.
Have you heard of this Dark Brandon thing going around? It's supposedly viral, to the point so viral that, have you heard of it?
No, I
No.
have not.
Well-
And I actually pay attention to viral memes.
Well, this one's gone viral, apparently. The left, at least the political left, I'm not
Yes.
talking leftist, but like
Right.
his own administration has jumped on the social media train, and they're trying to put a spin on the whole Brandon thing, and they're trying to take back Brandon to be their thing
Okay.
with this Dark Brandon meme.
Okay.
So this is from the Washington Post. It says Brandon returns darkly, which first of all, does when Brandon's already a derogatory term toward, and we all think, like a bunch of us think he's some like tyrant dictator anyway. Do you
Right.
think by throwing the word dark on Brandon, do you think that's a positive spin on it?
No, I think that's really bad.
But it's almost like they're making a joke, kind of turning it into, they're kind of doing what Q did to Trump, trying
Right.
that with
Okay.
Joe Biden, making him out to be this is like
Like
his
savior type.
dark alter ego, that it's like this necessary evil to save the world type
Oh.
thing. And it's just
Okay.
cringy and weird, especially who it's coming from primarily. So let me pull this one up. This is from, like I said, the Washington Post. It says, Brandon returns darkly. Democrats turn an insult into a pro-Biden meme.
Ooh, wait, who? Okay, this is Washington Post. Got
Yes.
it. Okay.
With Let's Go Brandon, Biden's critics found a way to curse him. His supporters are seizing on the Dark Brandon meme to vaunt his superpowers. Okay, first of all, we got to stop and realize left politicians are not good at memeing
No.
at all.
No.
For some reason, they just they haven't figured that quite out. But they're trying. I got to give them credit for trying here, but man, it's so cringy. So it says, it's not President Biden as many have come to know him. He's not the aviator wearing average Joe with familiar family folkism, the grandpa who plays with his dogs, the ice cream aficionado. In one image, he is a lifeguard in a chair, lightning bolts coming out of his hands as he declares, "Let there be jobs." In another, he's sitting in a chair that evokes Game of Thrones. And yet more, his eyes are glowing with lasers, or he is bearded and wearing an eye patch. At times, there is rubble in his wake. Meet Dark Brandon. Over the past few weeks, Democrats have attempted to co-opt one of the most searing catchphrases Republicans have pinned on Biden, turning the "Let's Go Brandon" meme around and reclaiming it as their own version of Biden fan fiction. First of all, how do you take somebody as lackluster as Joe Biden with zero excitability whatsoever and turn it into some fan fiction like dark superhero?
Yeah. Well, I mean, do you remember that when I showed you that AOC comic book?
Well, yes,
and what they did with Nancy Pelosi?
Unfortunately, yes.
I mean that's what they're trying to do with him, right? He's some badass who he has to come in and clear us from the whole the MAGA January 6th, rebels,
Absolutely.
the frickin' what's the term I'm looking for? Not anarchist, the opposite.
I don't
fascist.
know. There you go.
Thank
fascist.
you. He's trying to clear us out from the fascists, and sometimes he has to wear that black hat.
I guess.
Sometimes Dad has to get mad.
Says the new liberal-driven meme is meant to depict Biden as having superpowers, able to smite an Al-Qaeda leader and pass legislation through Congress with ease.
Yeah, seeing how it took him 2 years to get this one.
Right. Rather than an ineffective president inspiring Republican vitriol and earning historically low approval ratings, he is a superhero familiar with the dark arts and able to change the course of history.
Oh, God.
The tone reflects the shift in outlooks at the White House. It's not them shifting outlooks.
Mm-hmm.
It is blatantly a marketing strategy.
Yeah.
They're like, let's make this guy cool and hip. And he's like this. I mean, yeah, he's got bad approval ratings, but doesn't every vigilante type like look at Spider-Man? He was hated by J.J. Jameson, and they hated him for a while. Batman was hated for a while. I mean,
yeah, right.
He was the hero.
He's misunderstood. Yeah, right. He's the president that we deserve,
not the one that we want, but the one that we deserve.
Right.
Yes,
the one that we need right now.
Right, exactly. Says the imagery, which has roots among anti-Biden users on social media, has quickly gone from some of the far corners of the internet into more mainstream use by administration officials, liberal commentators, and U.S. senators. So, it's not like this is organically going viral. Right. It is a marketing strategy specifically because it's the administration, it's the left senators, and it's liberal commentators that are all in the same pocketbooks with each other. So they all got on the same page. It's not like, oh, wow, this is this really cool, trendy thing. Let's all share this around. Right. No, it's all these politicians were like, oh, we can get on the internet meme train. Let's do this funny thing, and everybody will love it. But it's it's quickly gone mainstream. No, it's being pushed as a marketing campaign.
And it's like saying that the January 6th hearings were going to be bigger blockbuster than Top Gun, right? I mean, it's like, come on.
And how'd that work out?
Yeah, right?
Says Dark Brandon, this is Deputy White House Press Secretary Andrew Bates tweeted, Dark Brandon is crushing it. Here's the image. Here's the tweet. There it is.
Oh, my.
Yes.
Oh, boy.
This is Joe Biden with glowing red laser eyes. And Andrew Bates quoted, Dark Brandon is crushing it. And Joe Biden is saying, your malarkey has been going on far too long enough, kiddo.
Malarkey.
Malarkey,
okay.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Let's keep going. It says, Rob Flaherty, the White House Director of Digital Strategy. So it's so trendy that the Director of Digital Strategy, which this is his fucking job to put out these memes, he also tweeted an image of Biden smiling with red eyes, his hair haloed against a dark background. He did it on his official White House account, he wrote, to ensure that it goes into the historical archives. So I'll let that one load while I keep reading. Some have added Bidenisms to the meme. Dark Brandon said, "Here's the deal," and then there was a deal, wrote Megan Apper,
God.
a senior advisor in the Bureau of Global Public Affairs at the State Department, another White House employee. Others in the White House have openly ruminated about changing their Twitter biographies to state that they work for Dark Brandon rather than the 46th President of the United States. So they're putting this in their Twitter bios.
Wow.
Senator Chris Murphy posted an image of Dark Brandon after the Senate approved the Sweeping Inflation Reduction Act of 2022, which includes a number of key Biden priorities. Here's what Chris Murphy posted. Straight out of comic books.
He looks like freaking Pence.
Yes. So,
they need to have a meme come out that says marked safe today from Dark Brandon.
Yeah. Imagery around Biden has taken different forms in recent years. During his time as vice president, the satirical Onion portrayed him as sort of a goofy uncle who washed his car shirtless in White House driveway, while Saturday Night Live imitations played up his toothy smile. To his supporters, he has often been a cool yet folksy guy wearing aviator sunglasses and driving a Corvette. They're really stretching his coolness.
Yeah.
Like, man.
Before, when he was first elected, they were talking about how great it is that he's boring. They're like, it's so nice to have a boring president, right?
Yeah.
That somebody who's just normal.
But now it's just like, this guy's too fucking boring.
Right.
We need to make something up here. And Dark Brandon is what we went with.
God. You know what the next step is? How they're going to try to make him cool. They're going to release the unauthorized Brandon and Jill sex tape.
Oh, my God. That's got to be the most disappointment. Come on, man.
Don't make corn pop.
So it says yard signs with the phrase. This is talking about the "Let's Go Brandon," where it originated from. We don't care.
Yeah.
It says Biden himself did not seem aware of the coded phrase "Let's Go Brandon" because he said "Merry Christmas" and "Let's Go Brandon" that one time. Remember?
Yeah, I remember that.
And then let's see. Does it get more into it? It says the Dark Brandon imagery began to gain traction in March and April, but often in ways that were not complimentary of Biden. That changed over the past week or so, particularly after killing Al-Qaeda leader Ayman al-Zawahiri. It says Biden supporters en masse began referring to him as Dark Brandon. No, his supporters did not.
No.
His staff came up with this, and it probably came directly from his digital marketing strategist, Rob Flaherty, who probably had some bad Photoshop or Photoshop.
Exactly. There's probably a glare in his eyes, and he's like, this isn't going to work. And he looks like, wait a minute.
It says, Dark Brandon strikes again, wrote one user, with an image of Biden wearing aviators and eating ice cream as a bomb exploded in the background. So that's Daytime Dan on Twitter. He's probably a White House staffer, I'm guessing.
I'm sure he is.
They are using similar aesthetic to Dark MAGA, an online movement that uses imagery of Trump and calls on him to seek political vengeance. Like I said, it's not even freaking original.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this thing that they're doing for Trump, we can use that. It's this cool, trendy thing to do.
It doesn't even work. Whenever I see somebody be like, some image of Trump like riding a white horse or something, where they try to make it look messianic or like he's coming back for vengeance, I just roll my eyes.
Yes.
And this is the same thing. It's like, come on, really?
Yeah. Do you think this is gonna have political clout in the upcoming elections? You think this is going to give him credibility and be like, well, yeah, because what it makes it seem like, it's like, yeah, things are tough right now, but we need tough times to get through, and we need a tough president like Dark Brandon to get us through these tough times.
Yeah.
So we don't need flowers and rainbows. We need Dark Brandon, the alter ego of the cool everyman's Joe. We need Dark Brandon to come out and save the day. Because you might think it's tough, but could you imagine what it'd be like without Dark Brandon on our side?
To make the hard decisions.
Yes, that's what they're going with. And it's just so cringy, and it just shows the level of like disconnect from the real, like the attempt to be relevant, because they're like, wow, social media can take off. If we can make this thing take off, this could really impact us. And when it all comes down to when the cards are on the table, it's just like everybody, I know even people on the left are like, really? That's what you're going with there?
It's like your grandpa showing up with the members only jacket and be like, "Hey, dude, I'm one groovy dude." You know, I mean, that's what it seems like to me.
Yes. So it says critics on Monday pointed to what they alleged was Nazi imagery in the background of some of the images. Bates had tweeted in a meme that placed Biden with facial hair and a red eye patch on the movie poster for The Dark Knight. The malarkey, or how do you pronounce it? Malarkey will end, it read. Dark Brandon rises. Conservative commentators pointed to the background of the poster, saying it included an image of an eagle that was used as a Nazi symbol. Again, tone deaf. So,
but I have to imagine, because
I mean, give them credit for trying, maybe.
Well, but look at the campaign and all the planning that went through with the election back in 2020, right? The playbook, we went over this, the whole color revolution thing. There's some underlying thing here that there's something here that, because I can't imagine that they're that tone deaf with all the shit that they do, with all the like planning and consulting media and promotional and psychiatrists or psychologists to figure out how to get that reaction. I don't know. I can't imagine that they're that stupid. I mean, maybe they fired him because they didn't want to pay his bill, and they're like, we can do our own stuff. I don't know.
Well, think about if when Trump was in office, because what this is like you got all these people that are saying that Biden's like an evil kind of dictator type tyrant anyway, with like trying to take all these rights away and stuff. And they're like, hey, we're just going to own up to that. We're just going to own that shit and make a joke out of it.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if when Trump was in office, he was just like, yeah, guys, I am evil. I am an evil dictator, and I'm going to run my campaign on evil dictatorship.
Right.
Can you imagine how the left would respond to that?
Yeah.
It would just, they would go insane. They're like,
oh, yeah.
Trump admits that he is a tyrant and a Nazi.
We knew it. Yeah, right.
He embraces his tyrannical side. So, I mean, it's just really sad.
Yeah,
is all this is.
Yeah.
And just the fact that they're trying to make this seem like it's gone viral among White House staff and senators and left press. It's like that's not the definition of going viral.
Yeah. Right.
That is you using your platform to try to push this thing.
Right.
And I guess that Daytime Dan commented on it, but everybody else was just like on his payroll pretty much.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's move on. Let's move away from Dark Brandon. Anything else on Dark Brandon? Do you think it helps in his numbers?
No, it's not going to help, because they're trying to flip the narrative, but the narrative's not even there.
Right.
I mean, I don't even see anybody trying to say, like he's some dark tyrant. Everybody's like, he's just incompetent.
Yes. Well, speaking of incompetence, let's move on. You remember the whole Alec Baldwin shooting and murdering somebody, or not? I can't say that. I don't want to get sued.
Sure.
A gun misfiring on the set, and
his
happened to be
irresponsibility.
No, you can't even say that. We might get sued for that.
Oh, shoot.
The gun, which he may or may not have been possessing in his hand at the time, happened to go off on its own. And it happened to the projectile from it happened to travel in the direction of another person and strike that person. That person happened to die.
Oh,
not related, obviously.
Sure.
But,
No,
but that I mean, that's
pure coincidence.
to keep us from getting sued. That's where we have to go.
All right.
Well, apparently the FBI investigated this, which I wasn't aware that the FBI was on the case here.
Right,
this doesn't seem like an FBI
No,
case.
it doesn't.
But the fact that the FBI's on it makes it seem even weirder.
Right, yeah.
But apparently, their report concludes that the gun that he was using cannot misfire on its own without a trigger being pulled. Whether it's half-cocked, quarter-cocked, 98% cocked, fully cocked, large cock, small cock.
I feel uncomfortable with your use of cock.
Apparently, Alec Baldwin's handling of the cock of the gun was responsible. And this isn't me saying this, so don't sue
do
me.
Do they realize he's not really Donald Trump? Because I feel like they're getting involved in a little bit extra than what they need to.
Yeah, I'm surprised I'm surprised they have time to investigate
Right.
this when they're busy raiding Mar-a-Lago. It says, in spite of Alec Baldwin's repeated denials that he pulled the trigger, this is from Zero Hedge, of the gun that killed his film's cinematographer, the FBI has concluded in a damning new report that he did, in fact, pull the trigger of the gun.
Are you surprised?
No. On the set of Baldwin's film Rust in October 21, the 64-year-old unexpectedly shot and killed his cinematographer, Helena Hutchins, who was 42 years old. Baldwin also injured his director, Joel Souza, during the shooting, which took place at Bonanza Creek Ranch in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Says Baldwin has always maintained that he didn't pull the trigger of the gun that killed Hutchins, which was only intended to be loaded with blanks. However, a new report has determined that the gun could not have been discharged unless the trigger was first pulled.
Well, you know, Democrats have always had a problem differentiating that guns don't kill people, people kill people. So that understands his confusion.
Until it's one of them,
Right.
Until it's him, because
And then
come
the
out
gun
and
does
said,
kill.
yeah, he's
Yeah.
come out and said that it's
It
a
just
gun
went off.
problem.
Right.
Yeah, we have a people problem. Yeah, it says this indicates that Baldwin may still be held accountable for the incident in the form of criminal charges, as the Santa Fe Sheriff's Department has confirmed that the investigation would be handed over to the district attorney. It says on Friday, authorities stated that they were waiting for the actor's phone records, which the district attorney has been working with Suffolk County Police Department in New York and Baldwin's attorneys to acquire them. Detectives will examine the documents, and then a case will be delivered to the district attorney so that she can decide whether or not criminal charges will be filed. Like, what phone records are we talking here?
Right, yeah. Like, did he call his lawyer right away
Well,
and be like,
here's a picture of him making a phone call immediately after the
okay.
shooting. So I don't think he's
he
calling
probably
the police.
called his lawyer like right away.
He's like, you got to clean this thing up.
Yeah.
Where do we get rid of the bodies at?
Yeah, right.
It's like, you're not allowed to say that.
Yeah,
over
I
the
know there's a
phone.
place.
Says the FBI's new forensic report examines all aspects of the shooting as part of a larger investigation to determine whether or not any criminal charges can be filed. The investigation concluded that the revolver, which was a single action FLLI Pieta 45 Colt caliber, was simply not capable of being fired unless someone pulled the trigger.
No shit.
According to ABC News, they arrived at their conclusion after carrying out an incident discharge test. However, it is not apparent whether the test was carried out using the exact same gun or an identical clone. It states that even if someone messes around with a hammer, the gun will not fire a bullet and a primer at the same time when it is operating normally. During interviews with investigators, Baldwin said he was informed the weapon he was holding was a cold gun, which meant the revolver was loaded with blank cartridges.
Doesn't matter.
Baldwin claimed that the weapon fired without him pulling the trigger when he pulled back the hammer and posed for Helena's camera, and the actor added, "I did not pull the trigger." So, we still don't know what happened.
Yeah.
We've been saying all this time it was his incompetency that
Yeah.
got her killed.
Yeah, you still should have checked the weapon.
It's not the incompetency of the gun by
Yeah,
any stretch.
right.
And either way, there's got to be some kind of safety requirements on set, even with
Absolutely.
blanks or not, because you've heard of like actors getting killed from blanks
Absolutely.
where they pull the trigger directly in somebody's chest of an actor, and just the impact of the
Right, the squib.
just the force of it will
Yeah.
blow a hole in somebody.
I mean, and you can tell when you watch movies, right? You see actors that keep their finger on the side, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you know that they've been gun trained.
Well, this guy, from what it sounds like, it wasn't even like a scene where he was like
Oh, yeah,
shooting.
no, he was just, like,
he was posing
posing.
for a picture. Yeah.
So
So why was his finger on the damn trigger anyway? Why was it even loaded if it was just for a picture? Why
Right.
was there even blanks in it if it
Yeah,
was just for a
right.
picture? I don't know. There's still a lot of questions
there is, but I mean, I'm saying manslaughter.
You think he'll get anything out of it?
I bet you he does.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet you he gets. I don't know. I mean,
I think in today's culture where they're going after the
yeah.
guns and
Well,
they're
and that's
going
the
after
thing. They got
they can't just roll over on this guy because he's famous. Be like, oh, it was an accident. Because if any one of us did that, they'd be like, oh, we got to get rid of guns. This never would have fucking happened if it wasn't for Americans having guns. There would not have been this accident. It doesn't matter if he thought there was blanks in it. It doesn't matter if the gun went off on his own. The problem is guns. And then you get an actor here. This happens. They can't turn around and be like, oops, we'll give you a pass because you're an actor. And we all know the dangers of acting.
Right. If this was Alec Baldwin's kid, right? Say he had a kid who found a gun that he didn't think was loaded and picked it up and pulled the trigger and killed his friend, right? I mean, it would be all over the news, right? And it would be like, this is why guns are evil. And so now you have an actor, same thing. Well, I didn't know it was loaded. Posing for a picture, pulls the trigger because he's a dumbass, and kills his cinematographer. I think they should bring up charges. They should make a big deal out of it.
Now, I do understand fully well that a revolver, when the hammer is cocked, it has a hairline trigger. Like, it takes very little pressure, but it still takes pressure nonetheless. Like, if you go to cock it back and your finger's on the trigger, there's a chance that you're going to pull that trigger. I've seen a chick almost shoot her foot off with a revolver. She went to cock the hammer back. She had it pointed at the ground, cocked the hammer back with her finger on the trigger, and it went off and shot like a foot in front of her own foot. So I know that there is a... Like, I'm not saying he intentionally pulled the trigger because it said it went off as he was cocking the hammer. My guess is because I've seen it happen. He had his finger on it as he went to cock it back, and it fired as he was cocking it. For what? Why was he cocking it in the direction of somebody?
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But the whole thing sounds like
it does. And I can imagine the first thing him saying is like, "Well, they told me it wasn't loaded," right?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And you're supposed to. I don't know what the requirements are on set, but you should always check your own weapon.
Yeah.
When it's like you're supposed to check the weapon when it's handed from one person to the next.
That's just etiquette.
Yeah. We saw that with what was the Wisconsin kid trial?
Oh, right, yeah. My gosh, yeah. Rittenhouse
trial where the guy like flagged the entire he's like the entire jury's like, how would you feel if somebody did this? Like, probably how I feel right now. Yeah. Right. He's like, don't worry, my assistant here cleared the rifle.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, but you didn't fucking clear the rifle.
Exactly.
A, you broke that safety rule. B, you just flagged your... Speaking of flags. As I say flag, your flag falls down. You just flagged the entire jury.
Yeah.
You broke that safety protocol. And his finger was on the goddamn trigger that time, too.
Yeah.
So you broke that safety protocol.
Yeah.
So it's just like all these people that are anti-gun, that speak out against guns are the ones that are breaking all the goddamn safety rules.
Right.
And they're the ones that are screwing it up for the rest of us. Because the people that love guns, that spend time with guns, they are the safest ones typically with guns.
Yes.
I mean, you get those nuts that are like rolling around on the gun ranges and stuff.
Yeah.
But those are the ones that people like us need to put in check and be like, get the fuck out of here.
Right.
You don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
But you get these people, and I know Alec Baldwin speaks out against guns constantly.
Yeah.
Doesn't know how to handle one, apparently.
Right.
Whether or not he thought it was loaded, he shouldn't have been pointing at somebody. He shouldn't have had his finger on the trigger, and he should have cleared it and checked it before even attempting to do anything with it.
Yeah.
So, incompetence.
It is incompetence, and again, I think they need to throw the book at him.
I do too. I think, like you said, I think they have to. They can't how watered down does that make your anti-gun message if you don't throw the book at Alec Baldwin?
Right. You're gonna look past it because he's one of your own.
So let's move on. Speaking of throwing the book at someone, we prefaced the whole Mar-a-Lago raid. So let's get into this. Your first reaction to the FBI is raiding Mar-a-Lago when you first heard it, before you even read anything.
So we were actually about to go live on Monday night when it happened, and I saw it. I'm like, what the fuck? And my first reaction was like, okay, this is it. They're making their move against Trump, right? And so because again, they're scared of him, and you had just. Well, and then later when you were saying how he had won the straw polls at CPAC and then in Florida, I was like, oh, okay, well, this is it. They're trying to make it so he can't run again.
Yeah. I mean, my first reaction was I rolled my eyes like, oh, brother, here we go. Big
Right.
surprise. No
Right.
surprise here. I mean, they've raided the homes of, what was Steve Bannon, didn't they
Oh,
raid his
right,
home? Giuliani, they raided his
Yep.
home.
Yeah.
They've got all his, they've
Yeah.
raided all their homes, all his cohorts. So, I mean, follow
Yeah.
suit, keep going, raid Trump's home. So apparently they were looking for classified documents.
Nuclear.
Yeah, that's what I read today.
Yeah.
At first, it's like classified, like what?
Right.
He saved copies of all his old tweets and stuff.
Right.
Because apparently there's this thing called the Presidential Documents Act or something like
Okay.
that, where like every like document and communication and everything handled by the president is retained at the White House level.
Yeah.
They're not allowed to take that stuff home with them.
Yeah.
And that all came to be because of Richard Nixon, because when he got booted or resigned or whatever, he was just like, I want to take all my documents with me, including recording. Like,
Oh, of course.
yeah, it's just like, no, you can't do that
Yeah.
because you're gonna destroy them. He's like, oh, I'm not gonna.
I
I'm
wouldn't
not a
do
crook.
that.
I'm not gonna
Yeah,
destroy
right.
him. And it's just like, but you are.
Yeah.
You will. So
Yeah.
they passed this law that said all this stuff stays with us, and the current president determines if they destroy it, they save it, whatever.
Now, is that for all government officials or just presidents?
This specific one is the president and the vice president.
Gotcha. Okay.
I don't know who all that applies to, but I know specifically those two. So this is from Yahoo News, actually from BBC News. It says Donald Trump says the FBI agents raided his Mar-a-Lago, Florida home. So this came out Tuesday on August 9th.
Okay.
So this is one of the original reports of this. It says Donald Trump has said his Florida home was raided by the FBI in a dramatic escalation of the legal investigation into the former U.S. president. In a lengthy statement on Monday, Mr. Trump said a large group of FBI agents were at Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach and had broken open a safe. The search is reportedly linked to an investigation into his handling of classified and sensitive material. First of all, let's back up.
Mm-hmm.
What about Hillary Clinton? Speaking of
Oh, yeah.
handling of classified
You
and
mean
sensitive
The
material.
lady who destroyed a bunch of cell phones with a hammer?
The lady that had a backup server in her closet in her residence
Oh, sure.
that was saving all her. She sent all her classified emails through a private server that was in her residence. Classified information that pertained to things like, I don't know, Benghazi and
Right.
like our location of troops.
Probably
And
lots of arms sales.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what I think in the government they call her Hillary. I have a shredder in every room. Clinton.
right. Well, that, not only that, but the reason they found out about this server was because of all of her emails were somehow also going through the laptop of a known sex offender, Anthony Weiner. So when
Yes.
they confiscated his laptop, they found these classified
right,
emails
yes.
and then traced them back to her private server.
Yeah.
So not only was it on a private server, but it was also going through non-secured
Yeah.
sex offender laptops.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's just, and she played the stupid card.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Like that, they're like, basically, we have no reason to think that she intentionally broke the law here.
Oh, yeah.
Even though she broke so many laws, we can't conclude that she
Yeah.
intentionally
Well,
did this. So
And wasn't it
bad.
her boy Podesta who shoved a bunch of documents from the 9/11 Commission in his pants and
I don't know.
yeah,
Really?
I promise you, yes. And then he
Wow.
like snuck him out of the building.
That's John Podesta for you.
Yes.
I mean, he probably had weirder things. It probably wasn't anything to do with 9/11.
He just liked the way it felt.
Yeah, exactly. He's just like, ooh, that feels good
Ooh,
in
I need
there.
some more paper.
Oh, man, he's weird. So it says, the search is reportedly linked to investigation into his handling of classified and sensitive material. An unnamed law enforcement official told CBS News, the BBC's U.S. partner, I didn't know CBS was a
I didn't
BBC
either.
partner.
I guess
Weird.
that makes sense.
Told them that the Secret Service was notified shortly before the warrant was served at about 10 local time, and the agents protecting Mr. Trump helped FBI investigators. What a bunch of assholes. Several boxes were taken away, the source said, adding that no doors were kicked down and the search had concluded by late afternoon. Some reports suggest the FBI activity, which Mr. Trump described as an unannounced raid, was connected to an investigation into whether the former president removed classified records and sensitive material from the White House and took them to Mar-a-Lago. Eric Trump, the president's second oldest son, told Fox News that it was related to an investigation into the handling of National Archive records that were taken to Florida residents after his father left office. U.S. presidents are required by Presidential Records Act, that's the name of the act, the PRA, to transfer all their documents and emails to the National Archives. The government agency said in February that it had retrieved 15 boxes of papers from the Mar-a-Lago, which Mr. Trump should have turned over when he left the White House. It later told Congress the boxes include items marked as classified national security information and asked the Justice Department to investigate. Mr. Trump at the time rejected reports that he had mishandled official records as fake news. Of course he said that.
Of course.
So, hearing that.
Yeah, so my understanding is that so he had spoken with his lawyers, and his lawyers are like, look, you need to hand this stuff in. So he was in negotiations with the DOJ to hand in the paperwork.
And they're like, no, just fucking go in and get them.
Well, yeah, basically that's it. He was in talks with them to hand them over, and Garland, the attorney general, decided to jump the gun and issued a warrant for the FBI to go in and just go get the stuff. And they did it while Trump was gone, so that's why they had the safecracker. And so that's kind of how that whole thing went down.
Says a federal search warrant must be signed by a judge, and legal experts suggest his warrant was probably approved at the top levels of Justice Department.
It was Garland.
Well, Garland approved it, but apparently the judge in this whole thing that signed off on it, that approved it, his name is Bruce Reinhart. And this guy is interesting. He was apparently a federal prosecutor until January 1st, 2008. One day before he decided to take on employees of Jeffrey Epstein as clients. So he stepped down as a federal prosecutor to be a defense attorney for Epstein's clients. And this just so happens to be a judge that signed off on the warrant to raid Trump's thing. I don't know if there's a connection there, but that just seems weird enough to me that there's that connection with some of Epstein's personnel. Because this says the federal magistrate who signed off on the warrant that allowed federal agents to search former President Donald Trump's residence once drew scrutiny for switching from his job as a federal prosecutor to working as a defense attorney on behalf of individuals connected to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The judge is known for his meticulous nature and is well respected within the Palm Beach legal community and had once worked in the Justice Department's integrity section.
Wow.
So he works in the integrity section, but he takes on Jeffrey Epstein employees as clients. That seems utmost integrity there.
You want to hear a conspiracy theory I heard in relation to this?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Do you know how Anne Heche died last week?
Yes.
Okay. So apparently she was working on some kind of documentary about sex trafficking, and
they always say that, though.
I know.
Everyone who dies was working on a documentary.
It's supposed to be released in September.
But who else was?
Yeah, it was the guy from Fast and the Furious.
Well,
Paul Walker.
was. Paul Walker was.
The dude from Slipknot.
No. Audio Slave guy.
Yeah, and Linkin Park. Yes.
Those two. So Chester Bennington and what's the dude? I can't think of his name. God damn it. I like him
Chris
too.
Cornell.
There you go.
Yes.
They were all working on documentary for so they all were. So if it gets released in September, then I will believe that.
So she was working on that, and apparently it was believed that Trump had papers in his safe that were incriminating from Epstein.
Now that I can see.
So
now I'm waiting to see because there was a podcast, the Quite Frankly podcast I was listening to, and he was like, I'm going to have somebody on the show, and he seems to think he knows what was in that safe, but he's not saying. Part of me wants to hope that it was Nikolai Tesla papers, like research, because remember...
Yes, his dad, or his uncle.
Yeah, the Trump family somehow came into possession of Nikolai Tesla's research.
Yeah.
And there was like all this talk around, conspiracy around Trump owning that too.
I'm trying to remember because it's funny because I saw a bunch of stuff this week about the Trump family's ties to Tesla.
Yeah, so maybe Tesla's papers were in that safe, and that's what they were actually going after. They wanted this energy source.
Yes.
This energy research they wanted to get that out of Trump's hand because that's how Trump's going to save the world is with Tesla's research.
Sure.
Didn't you know that?
I was suspecting.
So there's all these conspiracy theories floating around there.
Yeah.
Obviously, the sex trafficking thing.
Right. They've been saying for years.
Which every actor or famous person that dies unexpectedly was working on the same documentary.
Right.
So I would like to believe that's the case.
Right. Well, that would put some kind of, I don't know, logic into it. But the other thing I heard of is that they were doing this because they're looking at making huge moves against Taiwan this week.
Okay.
And
so they just want to kind of distract.
Right.
Yeah, no, that makes sense to me too. That makes almost more sense. Then this part is actually what I believe makes the most sense, because that whole act, for the National Archives, the Presidential Documents Act or whatever.
Yeah.
Apparently, if you violate that, you could be disqualified from holding office.
That makes more sense.
So, as you mentioned, we find out Trump wins the straw poll with a landslide.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that Trump will most likely be the front-runner candidate, and they've been trying to slam him, put him through all these criminal charges to keep him from running again. Then all of a sudden, they're like, go find if you find one classified document, we could prevent him from holding office. This is from The Independent. It says Trump could be disqualified from holding office again if he mishandled classified documents. Maybe that's why Hillary hasn't ran again, because
Yeah,
she's mishandled classified documents. So it says, let me get this video out. What the hell? What's going on here?
There we go.
Close, damn it. So it says Donald Trump could legally be disqualified from holding office again if he's convicted of unlawfully taking or destroying government records from the White House. A Democrat elections lawyer has noted following the FBI's raid of his property. So it's like they're showing their hand. It's like, no, it's not political, but if he was, if he did happen to possess classified documents, that may disqualify him but we're not saying that's why we did it.
But they would flaunt that. I mean, that is like ultimate like win-win for them.
Oh, I got to register to read the rest of this, but we get the gist of it.
Yeah.
So, because it just goes on to talk about the raid, so it just would make sense. That makes the most sense to me. Not the sex trafficking, not the Epstein connection. We like to make those connections, and God knows there's plenty of those.
In us.
Well, yeah. God knows there's all kinds of connections out there.
Yeah.
But I don't think Dark Brandon is this five-dimensional chess player that they're making him out to be.
Oh,
that's
hell
just like,
no.
well,
he can't even put his underwear on the right.
Well,
way.
we have to take out what's her name? With the actress that died.
Oh, Hesh.
Yeah, so at the same time frame as we're raiding the Mar-a-Lago thing to crack down on the Epstein connection and steal the Nikola Tesla papers, we also have to assassinate Hesh, who is working on this elite sex trafficking documentary, and he's playing all these five-dimensional chess thing, trying to make him out to be what people made Trump out to be. They're trying to turn that around, and I think they even used the phrase "trust the plan" in the dark.
Did they really?
The Dark Brandon.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, they pretty much just coerced they just stole the entire Q
narrative.
play card narrative. Yeah, but I think it's more shallow than that. I think it's more of if he happened to possess some classified documents. He may not be able to run again, and that might just save us the next 2 years. Because then all we got to worry about is DeSantis. And do we really need to worry about DeSantis?
He's your conventional politician, right? Yeah.
So I think it's probably more or less that. But what's your opinion just on this FBI raid alone? Regardless of what you think of Trump, regardless of what they may think is there, what do you think of this raid?
Two things. Number one, yes, I think it is totally to get him so he can't run again, to try to turn public opinion against him. Like, hey, he's hiding nuclear classified documents, so he's got something shady going on.
So first it goes, hey, he's got classified documents, and people are like, yeah, but so?
Yeah.
And then they're like, well, he may have nuclear. And people are like, oh, he does have connections with China, or
He's buddies with Kim Jong-un.
or he's friends with Putin.
Right.
Putin. So maybe he's going to sell the nuclear
Right.
codes, which aren't even valid anymore.
Yeah.
Nuclear technology to Russia. You know,
Right.
they're just blowing this thing up because it goes from he might have this, he might have this, or he might have nuclear documents. It's like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, keep going.
Oh, so but the other part of it is that is that I think that on the opposite side of it, it's really going to inflame his base, right? I mean, they're gonna be like, oh shit, they're trying to go after our guy,
Mm-hmm.
right? So they almost martyred him
Oh yeah.
by doing this.
And
Like, wow, that they're so scared of him
Mhm.
because of the deep state. We have to get him in there because this is it. He's gonna flush them all out now.
Well,
Right?
that's like what we were talking about with Alex Jones last week, and we said
Mhm.
Alex Jones, when the pressure went on him, he rolled over. He's like, I didn't
Yeah.
mean that. But the difference between Alex Jones and Trump is when all this stuff comes down on him, Trump plays into that and plays
Right.
the martyr
Oh,
card. He's
fuck
like,
yeah.
I told you,
Yeah.
they're here. I told you that they were going to do this, and
Oh.
here they are.
I can hear Trump in my head being like, well, I guess they're scared of something,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, why would they be if they weren't afraid of Donald J. Trump? Why would they even be here? If they weren't worried about like scared of me taking over, why would they be here?
Yeah, if these documents are so important, why are they waiting 2 years after the fact to come for him?
Right, exactly. And the other part is like what credibility remains in the FBI when it has been so drastically
Oh yeah.
politicized in the last 4 years.
Oh, for the last like 10 years.
Well, yeah, but at least since 2016, we've seen time after time
Yep.
example where the FBI was politicized against
Mhm.
Donald Trump, and whether you like the guy or not, that's not what the FBI is supposed to fucking be.
Right,
The FBI is not supposed to be a political freaking browncoats that are there to take out your political opponents. Whether you think he did something wrong or not,
Yeah.
that's like all you're doing is portraying them as, oh, the FBI is here to take out a political opponent. At least from the right's perspective, there's going to be no credibility left for the FBI. So when it does inevitably shift back to Republicans in power, nobody's going to have any faith left in the FBI at all.
Right. Yeah.
If there is any
Yeah.
left. I mean, I don't know how people still trust this entity anyway after the stuff we're going to talk about on Tuesday with Jose, with like Waco and Ruby Ridge and all these other things, like the FBI infiltrating militia groups and instigating things, and the way we saw basically FBI informants forming the plot to kidnap Governor Whitmer, the way we suspect FBI informants were part of like the instigation of the January 6th riots. It's like, how do we have any credibility
and
left
how
in
are
these?
we surprised at it though? Because remember when we did our report on the Weather Underground, and part of it was a report from an FBI agent that was undercover in the Weather Underground that talked about their plan to subjugate the American citizens and take over the country.
Yeah.
So even back in the 60s, they were doing this shit, right? Why would we think they'd change their MO?
Right. You think that the FBI was there doing the goodwill of democracy by raiding Donald Trump's home here?
Yeah.
And like if you like we talked about Hillary Clinton and her email servers, and it's just like never saw the fucking FBI raiding her house.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
she fucking destroyed, like you said, destroyed evidence.
Yeah.
After it was like court order to hand over, she destroyed documents.
Oh, you mean this cell phone?
She's like,
Whoops.
what do you mean wiped clean? You mean like I took a rag and like wiped off the? You remember her playing the stupid card?
Yeah.
Like I know Hillary Clinton's a dumbass, but that was just like in your face, blatant.
Oh yeah.
Like well, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like my teenage daughter plays that card. Well, you said I couldn't have a friend over, but you didn't say that I couldn't go over to her house. It's just like playing the. Well, you didn't say I couldn't wipe the server. No, I didn't. I didn't wipe it off. I don't have I don't know anything. I don't even know this technology stuff. I don't even know what is that box thing there with the wires and stuff.
Right.
I thought that was like the security system or something.
Right. Yeah.
Just playing stupid.
Right.
And
then,
she was never
Oh no.
broke into her house, raided,
No.
broke safes open and shit.
But then the FBI is like, oh well, she doesn't even know what she's doing, so we might as well look elsewhere.
But you're talking about the same FBI that there is recorded phone conversations of them saying, we got to do what we can to keep this guy out
to
of
keep
office.
Trump out. Yeah, absolutely.
Politicization of
Yeah.
a federal entity that is supposed to be like neutral.
But it's okay if they disband the FBI because now they have 87,000 new IRS agents.
That's true. That is true. Maybe they're actually trying to get rid of the FBI to
That could
kind of
be.
shit. They're like, people don't really like the FBI.
Yeah, right.
But if we just say it's
But
people,
they love the IRS.
yes, yeah, we didn't even get into that. The job description for IRS
Oh yes.
new
yeah.
hires that included like not willingness, but basically the willingness to use deadly force on
right.
people
Yeah.
to be able to
arrest people and
carry
out warrants
weapons and use deadly
Yeah,
force. And then
it's
all of a
like-
sudden, after public scrutiny, they're like, oh, we should probably take that
Yeah,
job post
right.
down. But there's plenty of screenshots out there.
yeah.
But apparently Obama, like Trump came out and it's like Obama stole like 30 million documents and took them to Chicago with him to like archive them in Chicago. Well, obviously they fact checked those and they're like, actually, he did not steal 30 million documents. The National Archives turned those documents over to the Chicago Archives.
Sure.
So he didn't have to steal them because we
Yeah, we
gave
gave
them
them to
to
him.
him. Yes. So that's the key
That
difference
makes me feel
there.
a lot better.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, you got to give credit to Dark Brandon for this raid, I guess.
Right.
Like
Always
he's
5 steps ahead.
well, every shitty kind of thing that happens is going to be like, well, Dark Brandon had to do. From now on, that's going to be
Yeah.
the narrative. It's like Dark Brandon had to take this on and do this thing that nobody else would do. Dark Brandon
Right.
had to do
He
that
has to save democracy.
Save democracy.
Yeah.
Yes, we need Dark Brandon to
Yeah.
save democracy, to do the evil deeds, the wicked deeds, or the to go into the depths and the realms of the underbelly of DC and to clean it up from the inside. Basically, they're saying
drain
he
the
drains
swamp.
the
Yeah,
swamp.
right,
Yeah, they're
right, yeah.
again they're
Without using that exact terminology.
stealing the fucking narrative
right,
from
yeah.
the MAGA Q people. So that's what they're going to use. They're going to joke about this in a week or so
Yeah.
about this raid and be like, well, Dark Brandon strikes again.
Yeah.
You know.
All
so.
right. No, you're absolutely right.
And it's just, I don't know, tone deaf, but I think it'll work for his base because
Yeah.
they are just that.
Well, they have to. I
Well,
mean,
yeah.
Otherwise, they're on the verge of suicide. Being like,
Well, they
Shit,
are on
I
the.
voted for this guy.
They are though. I mean, you can be on the verge of suicide without really like
Yeah. right.
consciously
Just
knowing
walking
it.
around like, oh.
Yes, I didn't know that if I cocked this hammer with my finger on the trigger with the
Yeah,
gun in my
right.
mouth that it would go off. That's Biden supporters for you. That tied Biden, Dark Biden, Dark Brandon, Trump, and Alec Baldwin all into
that
one
was nice.
narrative. You like that? That's the end of this show. I'm going to end on that note.
You can't end on a higher note.
Yes, we didn't get to, apparently,
Oh yeah.
a guy crashed recently in the last couple hours, crashed a burning vehicle into the U.S. Capitol barricades, shot his gun, and then killed himself. Didn't shoot anybody.
Yeah.
Just indiscriminately fired his gun, pulled the trigger on himself, and that was it.
Huh.
So,
Interesting.
don't know anything else about that story yet, but that
He was probably saying something really significant, but they couldn't hear it because he was shooting in the air.
yes, yes. I don't know, but that happened too.
We will not give up our freedom. What did he say? I don't know.
That guy was crazy.
yeah.
Yes, that's it. Well, that's all the time we have for this week. Let us know what you think. Go to our new YouTube page and like and subscribe so we can build that thing back up to what it was. Be back here Tuesday night. We're not doing our show Monday night as usual. We're kicking that to Tuesday because we have Jose from the No Way Jose podcast. He's coming on the show to talk about, like we mentioned earlier, the government distrust, the anti-government sentiment, the militia movements of specifically like the 90s. That time period fascinates me because you got Waco, you've got Ruby Ridge kind of kicked off that sentiment.
Right.
And it's like the Oklahoma City bombing kind of ended that because it scared them all because that
Right.
put a kind of a national freaking bullseye
Right.
onto anybody that claimed to be militia because
Convenient, huh?
yeah, because Timothy McVeigh had all these militia and white supremacist connections already. So it's just like, well, I don't want to be connected to that guy.
Right.
So that time period we're going to be discussing a little bit and digging into it, and then comparing it to maybe what's going on today with the Patriot movements, the MAGA hats, the Trump supporters, and all that shit too. So Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Do not miss that show because it's going to be a fun interview. Jose does really good work. He did a 5-part series on the Oklahoma City bombing. Go check that out. If you haven't really studied too much or looked too much into the Oklahoma City bombing, that is the most in-depth research I've ever heard. I can't remember the name of his guest, but super in-depth. The guy that he had on had subscribed. This was before the internet days or early internet, but nobody had access to it like we do now. But he subscribed to all these newspaper things. So he'd get like these article clippings in the mail. And so he had saved like from the start the narrative and how, so he could see line by line how the narrative shifted from like there was 2 people in the van to there was not 2 people in the van. There was a single solo act, and so that got him interested. So he's done extensive research, and that was, like I said, on the No Way Jose podcast. And listening to that research on the Oklahoma City bombing is what made me decide to have Jose on to talk kind of about that time period there, because it's interesting to me.
It is, yeah.
So,
it is an interesting time.
7 p.m. Central Standard Time, Tuesday night. Do not miss it. Invite your friends. Like, subscribe, share this all over the interwebs, because that's how we get our name out there and we become bigger and better, and we just want to be bigger and better.
Yes.
And we want that domain name, that custom YouTube domain name.
Yes.
So go subscribe to our YouTube account and allow us to do that. That's all the time we got for this week. We will see you Tuesday night. Have a great rest of your weekend.
Peace.
Goodbye.
The Break the Bell podcast is brought to you by you. So pat yourself on the back, because without you, we would be talking to ourselves. A special thanks to our Patreon members, Justin Zielinski, Remzo Martinez, Stephanie Parker, and T.O. Jacobson. A shout out to our sponsors, Run Your Mouth Coffee, the On the Run podcast, and Goulash Media. If you'd like to help support us, visit patreon.com/breakthebell or buy our garbage at breakthebell.bigcartel.com. Get back here next week and let us continue to invade your ear holes. And as always, never stop talking.